Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the horizon's edge. He looked at the big screen in front of him. For 3 months, his crew had been following a strange signal through space. The signal was different from anything humans had ever found before. It moved in patterns that seemed almost alive. Lieutenant Elena Vasquez sat at her station, working on the sensor controls. Her fingers moved quickly across the glowing buttons and displays. She was trying to understand what the sensors were telling her. After a few minutes, she looked up at Jake with worry in her eyes. "Captain, I found something weird. The signal is coming from an old station, but the design is not like anything in our computer files. I have never seen this kind of building before," Elena said. Jake leaned forward in his chair. He was 42 years old and had seen many strange things in space. But something about this felt wrong. His body told him to be careful. Before he became a ship captain, Jake had been a soldier. He learned to trust his feelings when danger was near. "Move the ship closer. Turn on our shields and get the weapons ready," Jake ordered. His voice was calm but serious. As the horizon's edge got closer, they could finally see the station clearly. It was huge. The station was 3 kilometers wide. The design mixed smooth curves with sharp angles in a strange way. The outside walls were damaged and full of holes. It looked like the station had been floating in space for thousands of years. "Captain, I am reading power signals. This station is not completely dead. Something inside still has energy," said engineer Marcus Webb. He was a big man with a deep voice. He sounded excited but also worried. Jake made his choice quickly. "Get a team ready to go inside. Elena and Marcus, you come with me. Dr. Sophie Grant, bring your tools for studying alien things. If this station is abandoned, I want to know who built it and why they left." 2 hours later, Jake and his team walked through the main hallway of the alien station. Emergency lights turned on and off, making long shadows that seemed to move by themselves. The air was old and stale, but humans could breathe it. This meant the air system still worked a little bit. Dr. Sophie Grant was a small woman with red and silver hair. She held her scanner against the walls and studied the strange writing. "These symbols are amazing. They look like picture writing, but several different languages are mixed together. This was not just a station. It was a meeting place. Many different aliens came here," Sophie explained. The team walked deeper into the station. They found a large central room. In the middle of the room stood a crystal structure that glowed with soft blue light. The energy signal was strongest here. This was what they had been looking for. "It looks like a data storage system," Marcus said as he moved closer to the crystal. "The technology is far beyond what we can build. It stores information at the quantum level. I have never seen anything like this." Sophie came closer with her scanner. "Captain, I think this is a galactic archive, a record book of civilizations. Look at these symbols. Each one represents a different species and a different world. This crystal holds information about hundreds of alien races." Jake watched as Sophie touched a line of symbols with her gloved hand. Then she stopped moving. Her face turned white like she had seen something terrible. "What is wrong?" Jake asked. He walked to her side quickly. Sophie's voice was so quiet they could barely hear her. "These symbols here show Earth, our solar system, our home. But they have a line through them. There is a mark that means deleted or erased. According to this archive, humanity does not exist. Someone removed all records of humans from this database." The whole team stood in shocked silence. Jake felt cold fear run through his body. Someone had deliberately erased all proof that humans existed. But why? Who would do this? "Can you access the archive? Can you find out who did this and why they did it?" Jake asked. Marcus was already working. He connected a portable computer to the crystal structure. "I am trying, but the security codes are very complex. Wait, something is happening. The archive is responding to us." The crystal suddenly glowed very bright. Holographic images appeared all around the room, filling the chamber with light and movement. The images showed Earth as it was 5,000 years ago. Cities were growing. Early civilizations were building and learning. Then huge ships appeared in the sky. The ships were massive and frightening. The images showed destruction everywhere. Cities burned and turned to ash. People ran into the forests and mountains to hide. But these alien attackers were not looking for slaves or resources. They were trying to kill every human on Earth. This was an extermination attempt. Jake recognized some of the symbols on the attacking ships. They matched other symbols in the archive. This was not just one alien race attacking. This was a coordinated strike by many different alien species working together. They tried to kill all of us, Elena said. Her voice was tight with anger. But they failed. Humanity survived. We recovered and grew strong. They do not even know we are out here in space now. Sophie kept studying the records that the crystal was showing them. According to this information, humanity was judged too dangerous to be allowed to develop. Our aggression, our ability to adapt, our refusal to accept limits. The alien coalition decided that humans would eventually become a threat to the established galactic order. So they decided to eliminate us before we could reach the stars. Jake's jaw became tight. His hands formed fists. They underestimated us. They always do. Marcus, copy everything in this archive. I want to know who these species are, where they live, and what weapons they have. Already working on it, Captain, Marcus replied. His fingers flew across his portable computer as data streamed from the crystal into their storage drives. As the information downloaded, Jake looked at his team. When we get back to Earth, we must tell Earth Command immediately. Humanity has been living without knowing the truth. We thought we were alone in space. We thought first contact with aliens would be peaceful. Now we know the truth. There is a galactic community out there, and they already tried to kill us once. Elena looked at Jake with serious eyes. What do you think Earth Command will do when they learn this? Jake's face became hard and determined. What humanity has always done when faced with extinction. We will prepare for war. We will adapt and become stronger. And we will show them exactly why they were right to fear us. But this time we will be ready. This time they will not catch us unprepared. The crystal continued to glow as more and more data flowed into their computers. Jake knew that everything was about to change. Humanity had discovered that they were not alone in the universe. But they had also discovered that the universe was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The aliens had tried to destroy humanity once. Jake was determined to make sure they never got that chance again. 3 years had passed since Jake and his team found the alien archive. Earth had changed completely during those 3 years. The planet was no longer a peaceful place reaching for the stars. Now it was a fortress preparing for war. Admiral Victoria Kane stood in the command center deep underground in Geneva. She watched the holographic displays that showed where all of humanity's new warships were positioned in space. Victoria was 63 years old. She had served in the military for 40 years. Her silver hair was pulled back tight and her gray eyes were sharp and alert. She had been chosen to lead Earth's military because she was brilliant at tactics and could make hard decisions when necessary. Admiral, the last Valkyrie-class destroyer has finished its test flight. All systems are working perfectly, reported Commander Lucas Park. He was Victoria's chief of staff and most trusted officer. Victoria nodded with satisfaction. The Valkyrie-class ships were humanity's answer to the alien threat. These ships were fast, heavily armed, and equipped with stealth technology that humans had learned from studying the alien station. The ships were designed for one purpose: to strike hard and disappear before the enemy could fight back. What about our spy missions? What have we learned? Victoria asked. Lucas brought up a star map on the main screen. We have identified 17 species that were part of the coalition that attacked Earth 5,000 years ago. 12 of them are still active and technologically advanced. The others have either declined in power or been absorbed by stronger neighbors. Victoria studied the map carefully. Red markers showed hostile species. Yellow markers showed unknowns. Green markers showed potential allies, though there were very few green markers. Humanity had been watching and learning about these aliens for 3 years, gathering information and making plans. The Kreenoth Empire, Victoria said, pointing to a cluster of star systems. They were the ones who led the attack on Earth. According to the archive, they are the strongest military power in this sector of space. What do we know about their current military strength? Their fleet is very large, Admiral. They have approximately 8,000 capital ships plus many smaller support craft. Their technology is sophisticated. However, we believe our advances in quantum computing and weapons give us some advantages. But they have the numbers. We only have fewer than 600 capital ships ready for battle. Victoria smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Then we need to be smarter than them. We are like David fighting Goliath. We strike where they are weak. We avoid their strengths, and we make them afraid to turn their backs on us. The door opened and Captain Jake Morrison entered the command center. He had been promoted and now led humanity's most advanced strike group. He walked up to Victoria and handed her a datapad. Admiral, the spy team has returned from the Kreenoth border systems. We have detailed scans of their defensive installations and patrol patterns. Jake reported. Victoria looked at the information on the datapad. They are overconfident. They have not updated their defenses in decades because they do not believe anyone would dare challenge them. Pride makes them weak, Jake said. We can use that weakness against them. Victoria made her decision quickly. Get your strike group ready, Captain. We are going to remind the galaxy that humanity exists. We will do it in a way they will never forget. Your target is their forward supply depot in the Helion system. Destroy it completely, but leave some survivors. I want them to carry a message back to their leaders. Jake understood. What message should they carry, Admiral? Victoria's eyes were cold and hard. That humanity remembers what they did. That we survived their attempt to kill us. And that we are coming for them. 2 weeks later, Jake stood on the bridge of the strike carrier Retribution. Around his ship, 20 Valkyrie-class destroyers held perfect formation in the darkness between stars. They had approached the Helion system using a hidden route, avoiding all known sensor networks. Elena Vasquez was now Jake's executive officer. She watched the tactical display screen. All ships report ready, Captain. The depot is 2 million kilometers ahead. Sensors show minimal defensive presence, just as our spy mission indicated. Jake studied the target carefully. The supply depot was huge. It was a sprawling complex that served as a logistics hub for Krynoth military operations across 3 sectors of space. Destroying it would cripple their ability to project force for months, maybe even years. All ships, this is Morrison. You are free to fire on my command. Remember, we are not here to take prisoners or capture territory. We are here to send a message. Execute attack pattern Delta and make it hurt. The human fleet dropped their stealth systems all at the same time. They appeared like ghosts suddenly becoming visible. Before the Krynoth defenders could even understand what was happening, the railguns opened fire. Magnetic accelerators launched tungsten projectiles at incredible speed. Each projectile carried the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon. The depot's energy shields flared bright, and then collapsed under the massive barrage. Secondary explosions rippled across the structure, as fuel storage tanks and ammunition magazines detonated. Krynoth ships caught unprepared tried to scramble into defensive positions, but the human destroyers were already moving. Their advanced targeting systems picked off enemy vessels with terrifying efficiency. Missile batteries fire at will, Jake ordered calmly. Hundreds of missiles streaked toward the depot. Each one was packed with high explosive warheads and guided by artificial intelligence systems that could react and adapt faster than any living pilot. The Krynoth point defense systems were designed to handle normal attacks. They were completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume and sophistication of the human weapons. The battle lasted only 17 minutes. When it was over, the supply depot was an expanding cloud of debris floating in space. 2/3 of the Krynoth defensive fleet was destroyed. The survivors, their ships battered and burning, limped away toward a nearby Krynoth outpost. They would carry the news of humanity's return. Elena looked at the casualty reports on her screen. We lost 2 destroyers and 5 others took damage. But we achieved the objective. Admiral Kane will be pleased with these results. Jake watched the escape pods fleeing toward the Krynoth outpost. They will report what happened here. They will tell their leaders that Earth survived, that humanity is back in space, and they will wonder what else we have waiting for them in the darkness. He turned to Elena with a serious expression. Set course for the rally point. We need to regroup and prepare for the next phase of operations. This was just the opening move. The real war is about to begin. They thought they killed us 5,000 years ago. Now they will learn what happens when you fail to finish the job. As the Retribution and its escort ships vanished into the darkness of space, Jake felt a mixture of satisfaction and concern. The attack had been a success. They had sent their message. But he knew this was only the beginning. The Krynoth Empire would not take this insult lying down. They would respond with force. And when they did, humanity would be ready. The survivors of Earth's near extinction had become something the aliens never expected. They had become hunters instead of prey. The Galactic Council chamber on Meridian Prime Station was filled with chaos. Representatives from 47 different species were arguing loudly. They pointed at holographic displays showing the destroyed Helion depot. Everyone was shouting and gesturing wildly. At the center of the massive circular chamber, High Counselor Theron of the Krynoth Empire stood at the speaker's podium. His forearms moved through the air as he spoke with anger. Theron was huge and frightening even by Krynoth standards. He stood 3 meters tall. His body was covered with hard armor plates that looked like insect shells. His mouth had sharp mandibles that clicked when he spoke. He was the perfect example of the warrior culture that made his species feared across the galaxy. The attack on Helion was an act of war, Theron declared loudly. His voice was translated into all the different alien languages through the chamber's systems. An unknown force destroyed our facility and killed thousands of our people. We demand the Council authorize immediate military retaliation against whoever did this. Ambassador Lyra of the Velsharn Collective rose from her seat. The Velsharn were an aquatic species that lived in water. Lyra wore a special environment suit filled with liquid. The suit shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that showed her emotions. With respect, High Counselor, how can we attack an enemy we cannot identify? The attackers left no clear evidence of where they came from. We have survivors from the battle, Theron responded sharply. They described the attacking vessels as unlike anything in our databases. The ships were fast, heavily armed, and used stealth technology that our sensors barely detected. This suggests a new player in the galaxy, perhaps from beyond the regions we have mapped. Counselor Jax of the Tyrillian hegemony leaned forward in his seat. Jax was a reptilian species known for their strategic thinking and intelligence. Or perhaps it suggests a species we believed was extinct. Has anyone considered that possibility? The entire chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to Jax. He continued speaking in a measured and careful voice. 5,000 years ago, this council authorized the elimination of a species that showed dangerous potential. The operation was deemed successful, and all records were sealed and hidden. But what if we were wrong? What if some of them survived? Theron's mandibles clicked rapidly. This was a sign of agitation in his species. You speak of the humans. They were primitives, barely capable of organized warfare. The strike forces confirmed their population centers were neutralized and destroyed. Yet no verification was ever made. Jax replied calmly. The fleet withdrew after the initial attacks. They assumed the survivors would die without their cities and technology. But what if some survived in remote areas? What if they adapted to the new conditions, rebuilt their civilization, and remembered what we did to them? Ambassador Lyra's bioluminescent pattern shifted to colors that indicated worry and concern. If the humans survived and have now developed the ability to travel through space, we face a very serious problem. Our archives describe them as exceptionally aggressive and adaptable. If they know what we did to their ancestors, they will certainly seek revenge. Theron slammed one of his 4 fists on the podium with a loud bang. Then we will finish what we started 5,000 years ago. The Krenoth Empire will mobilize its full military might. We will find their homeworld and eliminate this threat once and for all. That would be very unwise, came a new voice from the chamber entrance. All eyes turned to see who had spoken. A figure in a humanoid environmental suit stood at the entrance. The suit's design was elegant but clearly built for function rather than decoration. It had none of the elaborate ornaments favored by most council species. The figure walked confidently to the center of the chamber. Who are you? Theron demanded angrily. This chamber is closed to outsiders. You have no right to be here. The figure stopped at the speaker's podium. He reached up and deactivated the helmet of his suit. The helmet folded back, revealing a human face. It was Ambassador Ryan Cole, a man in his 50s with graying hair and intelligent eyes that showed both anger and careful control. I am Ambassador Ryan Cole of the United Earth Coalition, and I believe you have been looking for us. The chamber erupted in complete chaos. Aliens shouted and gestured wildly. Some jumped to their feet. Others activated communication devices to send urgent messages. Ryan waited patiently for the initial shock to pass before continuing to speak. 5,000 years ago, your predecessors decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. They came to our world and attempted genocide. They burned our cities to the ground. They killed billions of people. They left us for dead in the ruins, but humans are survivors. We crawled out of the ashes. We rebuilt our civilization from nothing. And yes, we remembered what you did to us. Theron's mandibles clicked with aggression. You admit to the attack on Helion. You confess to an act of war against the Krenoth Empire. I admit to reminding you that actions have consequences, Ryan replied calmly. His voice did not rise or show emotion. Helion was a military target. We took great care to minimize civilian casualties. We could have struck your civilian population centers just as you did to us 5,000 years ago. But we chose not to. That should tell you something important about how humanity has evolved and matured. Counselor Jack studied the human carefully. His reptilian eyes were sharp and intelligent. What do you want, Ambassador Cole? Why have you revealed yourself to the Council? Recognition, Ryan said simply. Humanity has earned its place among the stars through blood, sweat, and determination. We are not asking for your permission to exist. We are announcing our presence. You tried to wipe us from galactic records once. Now we are writing ourselves back into those records, and this time it will be on our own terms. Ambassador Lyra's patterns shifted to thoughtful blues and greens. And if the Council refuses to recognize your claim? What will you do then? Ryan's face became hard and serious. Then we will continue to remind you that we exist. The attack on Helion was a small demonstration, not our full capability. Earth has been preparing for this moment for 3 years. We have built fleets of warships. We have developed new weapons. We have trained our people for one single purpose: to ensure that no one ever tries to eliminate us again. This is a clear threat against the Council. Theron growled dangerously. This is a promise. Not a threat, Ryan corrected him. We do not want war with the Council, but we are fully prepared for it if you force our hand. We do not seek to dominate the galaxy, but we will never accept subjugation or second-class status. Humanity is offering the Council a simple choice: recognize us as equals and negotiate a peaceful coexistence, or continue down the path of conflict and learn firsthand why your ancestors feared us so much. Counselor Jax leaned back in his seat thoughtfully. You are asking us to publicly admit that the genocide attempt was a mistake. That is not an easy thing for any government to do. I am asking you to learn from history, Ryan replied carefully. Your ancestors made a decision based on fear and prejudice. They saw humanity's potential for violence and decided the safest course was complete elimination. But they failed in that goal, and their failure has given us something far more dangerous than raw aggression. It has given us perspective, determination, and a very long memory. The chamber fell into a tense silence as the Council members thought about his words. Finally, Ambassador Lyra spoke in a diplomatic tone. This matter requires very careful consideration and deliberation. The Council will meet privately and respond to your proposal within one standard cycle. Until then, Ambassador Cole, you are granted provisional diplomatic status and protection under Council law. Ryan nodded in acknowledgement. I will await your decision patiently. But please understand this clearly. Humanity is back among the stars, and we are not going anywhere. Whether we become your partners or your adversaries is entirely up to you and the choices you make in the coming days. As Ryan left the chamber, he allowed himself a small private smile. The first and hardest step had been successfully taken. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy. Now their future would be decided not on battlefields filled with fire and blood, but in the complex and treacherous world of galactic diplomacy and politics. And Ryan Cole was determined to win this battle just as surely as Jake Morrison had won at Helion. The week following Ambassador Cole's appearance at the Galactic Council had been very tense. Everyone on Earth watched and waited nervously as the Council met in secret to discuss humanity's demands. Admiral Victoria Kane kept the entire fleet on high alert, ready to respond immediately to any sign of aggression. But the communication that finally came was completely unexpected. Victoria stood in the communication chamber aboard Earth's orbital command station. She watched as the holographic image of Counselor Jax appeared before her. The reptilian diplomat's scales reflected the chamber's lighting in beautiful shades of deep green and gold. Admiral Kane, I come with a proposal that may surprise you greatly, Jax began. He did not waste time with pleasantries. The Council has voted to provisionally recognize Earth's sovereignty and right to exist. However, that recognition comes with an important condition attached. Victoria kept her face neutral and showed no emotion. I am listening carefully, Counselor. There is a grave threat emerging from the outer reaches of known space. A species we call the Devourers has been systematically consuming entire star systems. They leave nothing but dead, lifeless worlds in their wake. They are unlike anything we have encountered before in 10,000 years of galactic civilization. Our conventional military forces have proven completely inadequate against them. Victoria raised one eyebrow slightly. And you want humanity's help to fight them? The Council is deeply divided on the matter, Jax admitted honestly. But I and several other members believe that your species' unique approach to warfare might offer crucial insights that we lack. You humans have something we have lost over millennia of peace and prosperity. You remember how to fight desperately for survival. Victoria thought about this carefully before responding. You are asking us to help defend the same species that tried to exterminate humanity 5,000 years ago. You understand how that sounds to my people? I am asking you to help us defend the entire galaxy, Jax corrected gently. If the Devourers are not stopped soon, they will eventually reach Earth's solar system as well. This threat transcends and goes beyond our past conflicts and grievances. Victoria made her decision quickly. I need complete access to the threat assessment data. I need tactical reports from all your previous engagements with the Devourers. I need complete transparency about their capabilities, weaknesses, and behavior patterns. If Earth is going to commit military forces to this fight, we need to fully understand what we are facing. You will have access to everything within 1 hour, Jax promised sincerely. 3 days later, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the main briefing room of his flagship. He was surrounded by holographic displays showing detailed information about the Devourer threat. What he saw on those displays made his blood run cold with fear. The Devourers were not just aggressive predators. They were efficient, methodical, and utterly ruthless in their destruction. They consume all biological matter and strip planets completely of resources, Dr. Sophie Grant explained. Her voice was grim and serious. She had been assigned to the task force as humanity's chief xenobiologist. Every single world they have touched has been left completely sterile and dead. No atmosphere remains. No water exists. No life survives. Just bare rock floating in space. Elena Vasquez studied the tactical combat data carefully. The Council forces have engaged the Devourers in battle 7 times over the past 2 years. They have lost every single engagement. Casualty rates have exceeded 70%. The Devourers use swarm tactics combined with bioweapons that literally dissolve enemy ships into nothing. Then we need to use a completely different approach, Jake said firmly. The Council fights wars the way they have always fought them, with massed fleets in formal battle lines using predictable tactics. The Devourers have adapted perfectly to counter that traditional style. We need to show them something they have never seen before in their existence. Lieutenant Commander Nina Santos, his sharp tactical officer, leaned forward with interest. You mean hit-and-run attacks? Guerrilla warfare conducted on a stellar scale? Exactly right, Jake confirmed with a nod. We use our superior stealth technology to get dangerously close. We strike their identified weak points with overwhelming force. Then we disappear into the darkness before they can effectively respond. We make them chase us across space. We stretch their forces dangerously thin, and then we hit them hard where they are most vulnerable. The first joint military operation was launched 2 weeks later. A human strike force worked, alongside a Velsharn defensive fleet to intercept a Devourer swarm approaching the inhabited colony world of Thessia Prime. The contrast between the 2 allied forces was extremely striking. The Velsharn ships were massive, beautifully ornate vessels designed for prolonged, sustained engagements. Meanwhile, the human destroyers were sleek, deadly predators built purely for speed and lethal efficiency. Devourer swarm entering effective weapons range now, Elena reported professionally. Current count is 347 vessels ranging from small fighter-sized craft up to frigate equivalents. They are maintaining standard formation Alpha 7. The same exact pattern we observed in their previous engagements. Jake opened a direct communication channel to the Velsharn flagship. Commander Sirix, maintain your current defensive position and prepare to serve as the anvil in this operation. My ships will be the hammer. When the Devourers fully commit to attacking your fleet, we will strike them hard from behind. The Velsharn commander's translated voice carried a clear note of skepticism and doubt. Captain Morrison, they outnumber your strike force by more than 3 to 1. Are you absolutely certain about this risky strategy? Trust me, Commander, Jake replied confidently. Just draw them into the trap. The human destroyers activated their advanced stealth systems and completely vanished from all sensors. The Devourer swarm, detecting only the visible Velsharn fleet ahead, accelerated rapidly to attack speed. As they closed the distance aggressively, the Velsharn ships opened fire with their powerful energy weapons, creating an impressive wall of destructive force. The Devourers responded with their characteristic deadly swarm tactics. Individual ships darted in quickly to deliver bioweapon payloads before retreating to safety. It was the exact same pattern that had defeated Council forces 7 times before, but this time things were going to be very different. They are fully committed to the attack, Elena observed with satisfaction. All their attention and focus is on the Velsharn fleet. They have no idea we are here. All human ships, break stealth systems now and engage immediately, Jake ordered sharply. The human destroyers appeared instantly like deadly ghosts materializing from nowhere. They were suddenly visible right in the midst of the surprise Devourer formation. Railguns fired at point-blank range with devastating effect. Each shot was precisely calculated by advanced computers to cause maximum disruption and damage. Missiles streaked out in all directions. Their sophisticated AI guidance systems selected targets with cold, ruthless efficiency. The Devourers, caught in complete surprise, desperately tried to adapt to this new threat. But human tactics were deliberately designed to be unpredictable and chaotic. Ships that should have maintained proper formation suddenly broke away in completely unexpected directions. Weapons fired from angles that conventional military doctrine said were disadvantageous and wrong. The humans fought like they were deliberately breaking every established rule of warfare, and it worked brilliantly. Devourer formation is collapsing rapidly, Nina reported with barely contained excitement in her voice. They are attempting to retreat from the battlefield, but our advanced targeting systems are maintaining locks on them. Estimated enemy losses now at 62% and still climbing steadily. Jake watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Do not let any of them escape easily. I want them to remember this battle for a long time. I want them to develop a healthy fear of human ships. The entire battle lasted only 43 minutes from start to finish. When it was finally over, the Devourer swarm had been absolutely decimated. Less than 50 ships managed to escape into the vast darkness of space. The Velsharn fleet had taken some damage during the engagement, but suffered remarkably minimal casualties. And the human strike force remained completely intact with no losses. Commander Sirix's voice came over the communication channel. It was filled with a powerful mix of genuine awe and deep respect. Captain Morrison, that military performance was absolutely remarkable. I have never witnessed the Devourers so thoroughly and completely defeated in battle. Your tactical approach was completely unorthodox and unconventional. Jake allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction. We learned a very important lesson long ago, Commander. When you are fighting desperately for your very survival, orthodox approaches and traditional tactics are luxuries you simply cannot afford. We humans are natural survivors, and over many generations we have become extremely good at it. As the combined fleet began recovery operations and damage assessment, Elena approached Jake with a thoughtful expression. The Council leadership is going to receive and review the complete combat footage from this engagement. They are going to fully understand just how dangerous and effective humanity can be in warfare. Over the following months, human forces continued to prove themselves absolutely essential in pushing back the growing Devourer threat. Each new engagement demonstrated innovative tactics, creative strategies, and completely new ways of thinking about warfare that the ancient Council species had either forgotten over time or never learned in the first place. The victories were adding up steadily, but with each success came difficult questions. The Council members began to privately wonder among themselves if they had accidentally traded one dangerous threat for another potentially worse one. Humanity had clearly proven they could fight effectively and win battles against overwhelming odds. But what would humans do once the immediate Devourer crisis was finally resolved? Would they seek bloody revenge for the ancient genocide attempt? Would they demand massive compensation, valuable territory, or political power in the Council? These worrying questions hung in the air like a dark cloud. The final confrontation with the Devourers came not as a single dramatic climactic battle, but as a carefully calculated military campaign that took 18 long months to fully execute. Human military advisors, working closely alongside experienced Council strategists, had meticulously mapped the Devourers' expansion pattern across dozens of star systems. They had finally identified the enemy's central hive structure. It was a massive biological and technological construct, hidden deep within a dense nebula on the extreme galactic rim. Admiral Victoria Kane stood proudly in the command center of the newly designated Allied fleet. This was a combined military force of human and Council ships working together. It represented the first truly cooperative military effort in the entire recorded history of the galaxy. The bitter irony was not lost on Victoria, that she was now working closely alongside the same species that had once tried very hard to exterminate all of humanity. High Counselor, Theron approached her command console slowly. His Krynoth forces had suffered the heaviest losses to the Devourers over the past 2 years. His mandibles clicked, and what Victoria had learned through experience was actually a gesture of deep respect among his warrior species. Admiral Kane, our advanced scouts report that the hive structure is heavily defended by an estimated 5,000 Devourer vessels. Even with our impressive combined forces, the odds of success are quite challenging. Challenging odds are definitely better than impossible odds, Victoria replied with calm confidence. And we have several crucial advantages that the Devourers do not expect us to possess. Perfect coordination between our forces, creative tactical thinking, and a strong willingness to take calculated risks. Captain Morrison's elite strike force will lead the initial assault wave. Their primary objective is to draw out the hive defenders and create strategic openings for our main battle fleet. Jake Morrison received his final mission orders aboard the bridge of the Retribution. His strike force had grown significantly over the months. It now included not just human vessels, but fully integrated combat squadrons from 6 different council species. It was a powerful testament to how dramatically much had changed in just 2 short years of forced cooperation. All ships in the strike force, perform your final systems check now, Jake announced over the fleet-wide channel. Remember clearly, this operation is not about personal glory or revenge against old enemies. This is purely about survival for all of us and every species in the galaxy. The Devourers do not discriminate between targets. They simply destroy everything living in their path. Today we will demonstrate conclusively to them that when the galaxy's diverse species work together with a common purpose, we become absolutely unstoppable. Elena Vasquez carefully monitored the main tactical display as the massive strike force approached the dense nebula. Our sensors are picking up truly massive energy signatures emanating from inside. The hive structure is significantly larger than our initial estimates predicted, Admiral. We are looking at a construct approximately the size of a small moon. Then we will need to be extremely precise with our targeting, Jake replied calmly. Sophie, what is your professional assessment of the structure's weak points based on your biological analysis? Dr. Sophie Grant, now serving as the entire fleet's senior xenobiology advisor, highlighted specific sections of the massive hive structure on the shared tactical displays. The biological components require constant nutrient flow to remain viable and functional. If we can successfully sever these main conduits here and here with precision strikes, we will force the Devourers to divert critical resources to emergency repairs. This will significantly weaken their overall defensive capability. The major assault began with a perfectly coordinated strike from 3 different directions simultaneously. Human stealth ships delivered the crucial first blow. Precision railgun shots severed key structural connections with surgical accuracy. The massive hive responded instantly to the damage. It began pouring out thousands of defender ships in an enormous angry swarm. Here they come in force, Nina Santos reported with professional calm. Devourer vessel count is rapidly climbing past 2,000 ships and still rising steadily. That is absolutely perfect, Jake said with grim satisfaction showing on his face. Let them chase us away from their precious hive. All ships execute withdrawal pattern Omega immediately. Make them think we are retreating in panic and fear. The strike force pulled back in apparent disorder, deliberately drawing the massive Devourer swarm away from their hive structure. It was exactly what Admiral Kane had been patiently waiting for in her command center. As the Devourers pursued the retreating strike force aggressively, the main Allied fleet suddenly dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly behind the now vulnerable hive structure. Victoria watched the tactical display with cold, calculated focus. All ships in the main fleet, weapons are now free to fire at will. Target the primary hive structure with everything we have. Let us crack this abomination wide open. The combined overwhelming firepower of dozens of capital ships, representing the full impressive spectrum of Council military technology, augmented significantly by advanced human weapon systems, hammered relentlessly into the hive structure. Powerful energy beams carved deeply through tough biological armor. Missiles detonated precisely in carefully identified weak points. Railgun slugs punched completely through defensive energy screens. The enormous hive shuddered violently under the sustained brutal assault. Massive sections broke completely away and tumbled into space. Secondary explosions rippled across its damaged surface like a deadly wave. The Devourer swarm, suddenly realizing their home base was under serious attack, desperately tried to return to defend it. But Jake's strike force had carefully anticipated this predictable response. "All strike force ships engage the returning pursuit force now," Jake ordered firmly. "Do not let them reach the hive structure. Every single minute we buy here is another precious minute for the main fleet to complete their destructive work." The massive space battle that followed would be carefully studied by military, academicians, and historians for many generations to come. Human ships danced gracefully through the chaotic devourer formation, with aggressive precision and deadly grace. Their council allies provided crucial supporting fire and defensive screens. It was near-perfect coordination born not from centuries of careful practice, but from desperate immediate necessity and hard-earned mutual respect between former enemies. On the command deck of the Retribution, Elena watched the continuously updating sensor readouts with growing satisfaction and relief. The Hive's main energy signature is rapidly collapsing. Admiral Kane reports achieving critical structural damage to the central control nexus. Jake allowed himself a brief moment of deep relief. "Signal all Allied ships to pull back immediately to minimum safe distance. When that massive thing finally goes, it is going to take absolutely everything nearby with it in the explosion." The entire Allied fleet withdrew rapidly as the huge hive structure began its spectacular final collapse. What happened next was something none of them had anticipated or prepared for in their planning. Instead of simply exploding outward violently, the hive seemed to fold inward on itself impossibly. It created a localized but incredibly powerful gravitational anomaly that pulled in debris, fleeing devourer ships, and anything else unfortunate enough to be within its deadly radius. "What in the name of all that is holy is that thing?" Commander Lucas Park exclaimed in shock from the main command center. Sophie's urgent voice came over the emergency communication channel. It was filled with a mixture of scientific wonder and pure horror. "It is collapsing rapidly into a singularity." The Devourers had built their entire hive structure around a carefully controlled micro-black hole. They were using its immense power as their primary energy source. But now that the containment systems have catastrophically failed, the black hole is expanding uncontrollably. "Everyone get out of here right now," Victoria ordered urgently over all channels. "Execute emergency jump procedures immediately. All ships scatter. Do not wait for proper formation." The Allied fleet scattered desperately in all directions, jumping to faster-than-light speed as quickly as their engines could manage. Behind them in normal space, the dangerous singularity expanded outward for several terrifying. 2 months after the destruction of the Devourer Hive, the Galactic Council convened in an unprecedented full emergency session. Representatives from every single member species filled the massive chamber to capacity. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. For the first time in 5,000 years of recorded history, humanity was officially present among them as invited participants rather than hidden threats. Ambassador Ryan Cole stood confidently at the central speaker's podium. He looked out calmly at the assembled delegates representing hundreds of different worlds and cultures. "When I first came to this historic chamber many months ago, I came with justified anger and a firm demand for recognition of humanity's right to exist. I spoke passionately of humanity's miraculous survival against impossible odds. I spoke of our iron determination never to be victims again. Today I come before you with a very different message to share." He paused deliberately, letting his important words settle deeply into the minds of his audience. The long war against the Devourers taught all of us something profoundly important about the nature of civilization and cooperation. It taught us that old grievances, however historically justified they may be, must sometimes be consciously set aside for the greater good of all. It taught us that diversity of thought and approach makes us collectively stronger, not weaker as some feared. And most importantly, it taught us that genuine cooperation and mutual respect are far more powerful tools than domination and fear could ever be. High Counselor Theron rose slowly from his seat with great dignity. The massive Krynoth warrior stood tall before speaking. "Ambassador Cole speaks an important truth that we must all acknowledge. The Krynoth Empire personally led the coordinated attack on Earth 5,000 years ago. For that terrible decision and its consequences, we bear full moral responsibility. We acted purely from irrational fear. We believed that humanity's naturally aggressive nature made your species an unacceptable threat to established galactic peace and order. We were completely and utterly wrong in that assessment." The entire chamber fell into stunned silence at this admission. For a proud warrior species like the Krynoth to publicly admit such a fundamental error was completely unprecedented in Council history. Many delegates sat frozen in shock at what they were hearing. Theron continued speaking with obvious emotion in his translated voice. Humanity has proven through their actions that strength and compassion are not mutually exclusive traits. You fought bravely not for petty revenge against us, but for the survival of all civilized species. And when you finally had the clear power to destroy us completely, you made the conscious choice instead to defend us against a common enemy. The Council owes humanity far more than simple recognition of your right to exist. We owe you a sincere public apology and a permanent debt of gratitude for saving us all. Councillor Jax stood next to address the Assembly. I formally propose an official resolution before this Council that Earth be immediately granted full permanent membership in the Galactic Council, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities that such membership entails. Furthermore, I propose that all the sealed historical records concerning the genocide attempt be completely unsealed and made fully public. Future generations across the galaxy must understand clearly the terrible mistakes we made and the crucial lessons we learned from them. The vote was called immediately. It was completely unanimous. Every single species voted in favor. Not one voice of dissent was raised. Humanity was now officially part of the galactic community. After the formal session concluded, Admiral Victoria Kane met privately with Captain Jake Morrison in a quiet observation lounge. The lounge overlooked the station's busy central hub, where ships from dozens of different species moved in carefully choreographed patterns. It was a beautiful testament to the new era of cooperation and mutual trust. We actually did it, Jake said quietly with wonder in his voice. We did not just survive against impossible odds. We fundamentally changed the entire galaxy's political structure. Victoria nodded slowly, but her weathered face was thoughtful and serious. We showed them clearly that humanity can be absolutely fierce and deadly when directly threatened. But we also demonstrated that we can be noble and honorable when given the fair chance. We proved conclusively that our ancestors' greatest fears about us were simultaneously both right and wrong. Yes, we are naturally aggressive and highly adaptable as they feared, but we are also genuinely capable of forgiveness and productive cooperation when treated with respect. Do you honestly think they will ever try to erase us from the galactic records again? Jake asked with concern. Victoria smiled with genuine warmth for the first time in months. After everything we have accomplished together, I think they will be writing many volumes about humanity's remarkable journey. We were wiped completely from galactic records once in ancient history, but we returned not just with destructive fire and violence, but with honor, courage, and integrity. That is a truly inspiring story worth telling to every generation. Elena Vasquez approached them carrying 3 elegant glasses filled with what looked like champagne. I thought we should make a proper toast to this momentous occasion. The captain of a Velsharn ship personally gave me this bottle. Apparently, it is a traditional drink specifically for celebrating new alliances and lasting friendships. They raised their glasses high. Victoria spoke first with emotion. To humanity, may we never forget where we came from originally or what terrible trials we endured. Jake added his own toast. To our new allies, may they never forget that we easily could have been permanent enemies, but we deliberately chose to become trusted friends instead. Elena finished with hope in her voice. And to our shared future, may it be far brighter and more peaceful than our troubled past. As they drank together in companionship, the lights of the massive station flickered beautifully like countless stars against the darkness. Each glowing light represented a unique species, a distinct culture, and an important story. And among all of them, humanity's light now burned bright and steady, no longer hidden in shadow, no longer forgotten by history, but celebrated and respected as a vital part of the diverse galactic community. The incredibly long journey, from the ashes of near extinction to becoming a respected council member, had been difficult and painful. It had cost countless precious lives and required enormous sacrifices that would be solemnly remembered for many generations to come. But it had also proven something fundamental and important about humanity's true nature: that they were natural survivors first and foremost, that they were talented builders and creators, and above all, that they were absolutely never, ever willing to be forgotten again. Somewhere deep in the vast archives of the Galactic Council, Ancient old records that had once marked humanity as extinct were being carefully updated by archivists. The deletion symbol was permanently removed. In its place, detailed new entries were being added. Species status officially verified and confirmed. Council member in excellent standing. Military alliance partner and defender. Protector of galactic peace and stability. Humanity had been deliberately wiped from galactic records once in the distant past. They had returned with fire, fought bravely alongside their former enemies, and fairly earned their rightful place among the stars. It was the true beginning of a new hopeful chapter in galactic history, one written not in conquest, domination, or submission, but in genuine cooperation, mutual respect, and shared purpose. As Captain Jake Morrison looked out thoughtfully at the endless field of stars visible through the observation window, he knew with certainty that humanity's greatest journey was actually just beginning. They had already proven beyond doubt they could survive the worst that the universe could throw at them. Now they would show the entire galaxy what incredible things they could build and create when given the chance. In the days and weeks that followed the historic council session, humanity began to truly integrate into galactic society. Human diplomats worked alongside alien counterparts. Human scientists collaborated with researchers from a dozen different species. Human merchants established trade routes across multiple sectors. And human military officers trained alongside council forces, sharing the hard-won tactical knowledge that had saved the galaxy from the devourers. Dr. Sophie Grant established the first joint Xenobiological Research Institute, bringing together the best minds from Earth and the Council worlds. Marcus Webb led engineering teams that combined human innovation with alien technology to create advances neither could have achieved alone. Elena Vasquez became an instructor at the new Allied Fleet Academy, teaching young officers from many species the importance of creative thinking in combat situations. And everywhere humans went in the galaxy, they carried with them the story of their survival, not as a threat or a warning, but as an inspiration. They showed that even after facing the worst imaginable tragedy, it was possible to rebuild, to forgive, and to move forward. They demonstrated that strength did not have to mean cruelty, and that remembering the past did not mean being forever bound by it. The galaxy had tried to forget humanity once. It had tried to erase them from history and memory, but humanity had returned, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as partners.